what is 5G and is it dangerous?
Yeah, so 5G is the fifth generation of wireless technology. And so, we kind of started with first generation, obviously start at number one, and then 2G, second generation, 3G, third generation, and then 4G, fourth generation. So basically they just keep advancing, and you could call it improving or making it worse. They're improving the speeds, I guess, of the networks, and the technology is faster. But as we get more and more of these cell phone networks and towers, we're definitely getting more exposures to wireless frequencies, and a lot of them haven't been studied in a deep extent. A lot of them have been, and we know about like the thousands and thousands of studies that have shown harm and biological effects, but the industry, of course, ignores those, just like the tobacco industry ignored a lot of the studies that resulted in cancer over the years. So fifth generation includes all of the frequencies in the generations before that, and it adds on to those, and then it opens up new bandwidths into millimeter waves.
But then there's just so many people, obviously a majority, I think anyway, that are not aware of these dangers at all. And they're not aware because they're invisible, because they can't feel them. Most people can't feel them, and because they're invisible. And that's why having a meter is so important, because it's this kind of seeing is believing. Let's talk about the new meter and perhaps get a bit technical for a moment and try and understand the ins and outs, the spec perhaps of what this meter can do.
This meter actually measures all of the previous generations of wireless, so 40 megahertz to 10 gigahertz. That covers pretty much the full spectrum of all the wireless frequencies that we were exposed to before 5G. And then this meter also includes a bandwidth between 24 gigahertz and 32 gigahertz. And those are millimeter wave ranges. It's getting into the millimeter wave. And basically what that means is the frequencies are between 10 millimeters and 1 millimeter. So 10 millimeters is about 30 gigahertz. And then 1 millimeter would be all the way up to 300 gigahertz. What's nice about this meter is that it's got all the features of a normal RF meter as well. So it's got the speaker, and that's very important if you're familiar with EMF meters, because then you can hear the frequencies and what they sound like and what they are, and you can tell the difference between Wi-Fi and if it's a smart meter or Bluetooth or a cell phone tower.
Yeah,
and that's very, very helpful. It's super important for hunting for frequencies around the house, especially if you buy something new and you suspect it might have some connectivity to your network in it. Real-time measurements, and also it's uniquely upgradable to future millimeter wave bandwidth ranges. And so
that's particularly interesting, because to my knowledge, that's the first time I've seen that.
Yeah, exactly. One of the silver linings of this technology is that it doesn't penetrate very far. And so like if you're in your car, you're actually not getting exposed to those particular frequencies.
I just want to underline that is that this about the penetrative power, which is not as good, like that's kind of the trade-off, isn't it? Is that when we go into these higher frequencies, then that's why they're putting the antennas everywhere, because it doesn't penetrate buildings and places and cars and things as good as the lower frequencies. They say all this is safe, be it 5G, be it 3G, whatever, but like, which is worse, 5G, 3G, 4G?
It's about, hey, is this natural or not? Is this disturbing biological processes and metabolic processes or not? And a lot of times the power can be extremely low and extremely damaging, which a lot of people don't realize. I hope that nobody clips me on that. But here's what matters is the sensitivity of the meter and measuring if you're being exposed or not, because accuracy has to do with power, because these are power meters. And so if we're detecting a frequency the accuracy of the frequency is a much different thing to look at than, like, you could have a meter that's measuring one thing and it could be a different frequency. You know, it's important that that's accurate.
Yeah.
But the power is not as important, because to me, if the Wi-Fi router is on or off, that's what matters. If the cell phone tower is, if I'm able to detect that in your bedroom, that's what matters. A lot of times we think of higher is worse. You know, higher frequency sounds a lot worse than low frequency. But really, there's some beneficial frequencies that are really high. And so, like, you know, there's a lot of the electromagnetic spectrum that's natural, that we're exposed to, that's very high frequency, that's beneficial. And so we shouldn't always assume that higher frequency is worse. It's just different.
We have a 5G Verizon ultra wideband cell tower right there. And I've got all these other RF meters. These are not measuring ultra wideband. They're measuring the normal 4G and 5G mid-band frequencies. So we have pretty high readings in all of that. And right now my phone is connected to a 5G, but not the ultra wideband, not the millimeter waves. So this meter right here is the new millimeter wave meter, and it is measuring 24 gigahertz to 32 gigahertz. I'm going to go ahead and keep it on that setting and measure. And then what I'm going to do here is press play on this Ultra 8K video. And then we should see a UW show up. And we do see that UW. Now this is tracking. These are not increasing at all, but this is off the charts. Okay, I'm going to reset that. So you can see it keeps going up, mostly coming from the phone here. Ultra wideband 5G right on the phone. So this is what we're getting from the tower. As we go further from the phone, see, I'm resetting it. Whenever I press this button, I'm resetting it. So as I get closer to the phone, you can see that's where I'm getting most of my exposure from. I'm going to come out here towards the tower.
Okay, so I'm kind of walking away from the car here. And
so
then
I'm getting a little bit out here.
Just a little bit.
So this is these are baseline readings. Okay, I got a little bit of a buzz there.
Getting closer to the phone.
You can see that most of it's coming from the phone itself, and it's pinpointing from this tower. And now these towers are normally dormant, but when you have a 5G phone and activate it, it will signal your phone to emit millimeter waves. So the phones are emitting millimeter waves. But it's also going to throw some millimeter waves at the phone. Now it's kind of laser focused though, so you kind of have to get right into the beam in order to detect it. There, so I was getting into the beam here, but it's possibly the phone because I'm getting close to the phone too. Off the charts, millimeter waves from the phone. Look at that. That's crazy. That is 2 million microwatts per meter squared.
It was actually, I'm looking at the video now, and I looked at it right after I recorded it. It was actually 20 million microwatts on that meter.
Brian, thank you so much.
Thanks, Lloyd.
And thank you, listener. My name is Lloyd Burrell from electricsense.com. Until next time, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.